Okay, picture a classroom. What you're really looking at is a beautifully wide spectrum of minds, right? Brains that are literally wired in completely different ways. Today, in this explainer, we're going to break down exactly how to build equitable, highly effective mathematics environments where every single exceptional learner gets exactly what they need to thrive. Let's get into it.
So, here's the big question. How do we actually teach math when brains are wired differently? Well, first things first, we have to completely toss out that old one-size-fits-all approach. It just doesn't work. We've got to learn how to effectively accommodate exceptionalities, and that means everything from cognitive differences all the way to giftedness, right there in the general education classroom. We can't just rely on separate pull-out programs anymore.
Here's our roadmap for today. We'll be covering 1. The RTI pyramid model, 2. Explicit strategy interventions, 3. The CSA approach, 4. Adapting for clarity, and finally, 5. Supporting mathematically gifted students.
All right, starting with number 1, the RTI pyramid model. Let's look at this foundational structure that really acts as a safety net for our students.
The core philosophy here is a total paradigm shift. Response to intervention, or RTI as you'll usually hear it called, is an incredibly powerful multi-tiered student support system. It provides struggling students with immediate, increasing levels of targeted assistance. And you know what's so great about this? It's all about prevention. Instead of waiting for a student to fall hopelessly behind, we're stepping in immediately. It's proactive, designed to help us figure out, hey, is this low achievement due to a lack of high-quality curriculum, or is it an actual cognitive difference?
In practice, it looks like a progression of intensity. Down in Tier 1, you've got your core, high-quality instruction for all students. That's a high student-to-teacher ratio. But as a student needs Tier 2 or Tier 3 interventions, the group sizes shrink down, sometimes all the way to one-on-one. The instruction becomes highly customized. So basically, as the number of students in a tier decreases, the precision and intensity of the intervention strictly increases.
Which leads us perfectly into Section 2, explicit strategy interventions. Because the real question is, what exactly do you do when that Tier 1 core instruction just isn't quite enough?
For learners who need some serious structure, especially those with learning disabilities, we use explicit strategy instruction. Think of it like this. You aren't just handing them an answer. You're illuminating the invisible decision-making process. First, you explicitly model the strategy. Second, you intentionally prompt them through that exact model. And then, only then, do they move on to independent practice.
To really get why this matters, compare it to an open-ended inquiry approach. Inquiry is fantastic, don't get me wrong. But asking something like, using these cubes, how can you show me a representation for 4 times 5 relies heavily on working memory and self-directed learning. Explicit instruction, on the other hand, simply says, watch me, now make a rectangle with the cubes that looks just like mine. See the difference? It gives students with disabilities immediate access to those abstract concepts without all that extra cognitive overload.
Okay, moving right along to Section 3, the CSA approach. Let's see how this explicit mindset builds into one of the absolute most successful interventions out there for students with disabilities.
The concrete, semi-concrete, abstract approach, or CSA, is basically a deliberate cognitive bridge. You guide students on this physical and visual journey. You move from concrete manipulatives and movement to semi-concrete drawings and pictures, and finally to abstract symbols and equations. But, and this is the secret sauce here, you absolutely must parallel model the numbers at every single stage. So when they're holding that physical block, the written number needs to be right there next to it, forging that mathematical connection in real time.
Next up, Section 4, adapting for clarity. Because while structured models like CSA are amazing, your everyday classroom execution is going to require some on-the-fly adjustments.
Seriously, everyday execution requires rapid-fire adaptations, especially for students with moderate to severe disabilities. So, what can you do? Well, repeat the time frame so students don't lose track of pacing. Explicitly teach academic vocabulary. Provide examples and non-examples. That's huge for helping them zero in on defining features. Use friendly numbers, like a flat $6 instead of $6.13, so they don't get bogged down in messy math. And always emphasize those real-world connections. Okay, let's pivot entirely to Section 5, supporting mathematically gifted students. We need to expand our spectrum horizontally here to talk about a totally different, yet honestly frequently overlooked exceptionality.
We've talked about struggling learners, but what if the core instruction isn't challenging enough? People tend to think of accommodations as just a lifeline for those falling behind. But the reality? Mathematically talented students desperately need to be challenged in their daily core instruction too. If we're just tossing them into a Friday pull-out enrichment program and keeping the daily pacing too slow, we are absolutely doing them a disservice.
If we want to prevent these brilliant students from just totally tuning out, we have to adapt across 4 key areas: acceleration and pacing, depth, complexity, and creativity. The main takeaway here is that gifted students need to be applying and stretching ideas to their absolute limits, not just memorizing a larger pile of basic facts.
This is where complexity gets really fun in action. Say a student masters place value way ahead of time. Don't just hand them next year's textbook. That's boring. Deepen their current knowledge. Have them study Roman, Mayan, Egyptian, or Babylonian numeration systems. Or maybe explore the Fibonacci sequence hidden in nature. You're sparking their creativity through rich, historical, and interdisciplinary connections. It's like a giant puzzle for them. On the flip side, it is absolutely vital to know what doesn't work. The most ineffective approach? Assigning more of the exact same work, or dumping them on isolated computer skill programs. Giving a gifted student 50 basic equations just because they finish the first 20 quickly is a total recipe for disaster. They'll literally just hide their abilities to avoid the busy work. Best practice means combining acceleration with genuine depth through enrichment.
I want to leave you with this really powerful thought from Sheffield. The goal is to introduce students to the joys and frustrations of thinking deeply about a wide range of original, open-ended, or complex problems that encourage them to respond creatively. Our ultimate job as educators is to design that inclusive environment. So as you step back into your own classroom, ask yourself, are you just teaching a curriculum, or are you actually creating the conditions for every uniquely wired brain to discover its true potential?